On today's video, we'll look into a scenario in which Northern Africa and Southern Africa go to war, with Algeria, Morocco, Egypt, and Sudan being the advantage for the North, while the South has Angola, Nigeria, South Africa, Ethiopia, and Tanzania. Both sides are pretty strong nations, with the strongest being Egypt, so that gives the red team some advantage. And Algeria is one of the top 5 African strongest nations. And so the war begins. And well, at the beginning of the war, well, the team that starts advancing is the red team, because they're the ones that started the war, so they have the beginning advantage. Element of surprise. Who actually thought an army from the north would actually invade? Some of the weaker Western African nations not able to hold. Nigeria is able to hold, but, well, they struggle a bit. The Central African Republic literally has no chance. They should just surrender, basically. And, well, yeah. And against Ethiopia, the front might stall to about here. And, well, with South Africa's offensive, counter-offensive, pushing them back here, pushing them back over here, and Nigeria manages to push them back. And hopefully hold them back with a counter-offensive in the Central African Republic and one in Ethiopia. With the red team now going on the offensive in the weaker nations. And quickly do that with the Central African Republic, all but almost falling just because of its neighbors holding it, but eventually that happens. And, well, South Sudan is forced to surrender at this point because there's nothing they can really do. With Somalia getting attacked, but no, they don't like this. With Nigeria holding the front over here, so Nigeria is holding the western front, basically. We can call this the northwestern front, and we can call this south central front. No, this is the north central front. And we can call Ethiopia a powerhouse. But at this point, it's unlikely that they'll be able to send forces like this, because a new offensive is made and it's very much secured, as it takes Gabon and Equatorial Guinean lands and do that. And, well, they hook up with this lake, and, well, they move in from there. Well, they move in deeper and deeper. And especially in Somalia, in Somaliland, which is just Somalia. But Somaliland does kind of exist as a country, but it's not. If that makes sense. It acts like a country, but it's not. There's a few nations like that. But yeah. A counter-offensive as Nigeria is holding its neck of the woods. Ethiopia is holding theirs. Tanzania has kicked them out of their neck of the woods. And the Democratic Republic of Congo moves slightly into South Sudan in the Central African Republic. You can assume that Nigeria is in the worst position, as they're getting more and more encircled, and as the blue team makes counter-offensive, Nigeria is starting to struggle. But a few other places don't. And then, well, this is about the fall in Nigeria with Cameroon being forced into surrender. They start moving in on a new front into Nigeria. And Nigeria loses Lagos. And then loses its capital, which is somewhere here. And collapses. Is forced into capitulation. With Ethiopia being cut off again. And now the red team's actually having lots of success right now as the blue team's struggling. So the blue team starts intensive conscription. The Democratic Republic, Tanzania, Angola, and, well, Ethiopia and South Sudan put mass conscription plans in. As Ethiopia is fully cut off, they quickly turn to be like that. No aid coming in, they're gonna fight hard. But the conscription starts seeing an effect with a counter-offensive actually yielding way. With all the nations, with rebels rising up across occupied territory, Ethiopia manages to connect with the sea, but in a bad location, so, yeah, not really the best spot. And, well, this area gets encircled But this area gets itself unencircled. And while the North is pushing them back, but the North are the ones struggling. And as the North starts to struggle, they start to do this move. And Ethiopia does this move, which means they're forced to withdraw from a lot of these lands. With them starting to withdraw troops, and as troops withdraw, lands get taken. And they almost take all that, but then, well, that happens. They're kicked out. Without a lot of troops. And mass conscription for the southern nations give them an edge. Because none of these really have the most modern militaries in this area. Well, they might have modern militaries, but yeah. I think Angola does, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe Egypt. But I think a lot of the nations in the south have a lot of people. Because Ethiopia, 100 million, 200 million, 100 million. Yeah, these countries' populations are big. With them trying to claim some victory, so they decide to try to get a victory over Ethiopia, but Ethiopia does not budge and they refuse to back down, but they get pushed back a bit and into South Sudan. But as Central African Republic starts to fall, as they cut off these two fronts from being connected, so really it's two fronts. And, well, Egypt is struggling to get a victory. And Nigeria fights with them in some ways, so, like, it gets easy with the resistance armies teaming up with them. And, well, they make another offensive right here to try to secure their holdings. And one over here. Wait, I said one. That's two. That doesn't sound right. And, well, now a massive pushback in Ethiopia happens where they're pushed right out. And this spirals across the front with rebels breaking out in some of the countries. But since they're smart, Ethiopia decides to invade Eritrea, and that's a success. And yeah. With that being Sudan, until Chad starts collapsing. With Egypt now trying to hold this entire place together, as Sudan's struggling, it's now Egypt, Morocco, and Algeria trying to hold the front, and they might not be getting along the best. With Egypt deciding to go on a counter-offensive in Sudan, and Algeria and Morocco decide to go on the counter-offensive here and compete who can do the counter-offensive better. But the counter-offensive stalls out, and as they were trying that, they get pushed right out of a lot of territory. With rebels in Chad overthrowing the country and deciding to switch sides. And well, somebody does something funny. They do this. I think they're funny. But more countries are likely to either switch sides or fail. With Sierra Leone and Guinea falling to the pressure fast. Guinea-Bissau. And, well, there. Morocco's trying to hold this back, but failing. Algeria's holding in northern Chad. With Morocco finally getting a successful offensive. But they don't realize this war is kind of a lost cause at this point. With Chad kicking them out. And then an invasion of Niger is decided. But Niger has had coups in the past and isn't the most stable country. And, well, after they take quite a bit of land before they take the capital, a coup happens and is taken over. Burkina Faso has a coup. And they started invading even more nations. With Mali having a coup. Yeah. The red team isn't getting a break. With the dispute between two people in Sudan spiraling out as rebels show up. And, well, Sudan capitulates and a stalemate's locked with Egypt. And they start an invasion of Libya and they make it to the coast. And at this point, Libya has a coup and switches sides. Yeah. Yeah, you should pick your allies more carefully. Maybe you should at East versus West. Like, that might be a bit unfair. Yeah, it probably is. With Libya and occupied Sudan starting to be pushed up into Egypt, with Algeria getting pushed back, with Morocco deciding to leave the war along with Tunisia, followed by Western Sahara. But in order to not be invaded, they had to switch sides, was the agreement. And with them switching sides, well, this war ended in total failure. With Mauritania getting couped. Yeah, everybody likes having coups in this video. Who knew? We would just do coup after coup after coup. Coup d'etat. Coup. Maybe I just like saying that word. With Algeria capitulating, and a push is put towards Cairo and Alexandria. Both these cities are captured and they capitulate. Within the peace treaty, no lands are changed. They just literally make I have a southern government. Yes, everyone's a southerner now here. Southern African, not southerner. And well, after a war in Africa, it's over. And that's all for today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Wild Mapper out, but not until you subscribe, so you can get to 3,000 subscribers by December 25th. Bye, guys.